Good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll do a quick review of yesterday just to show that we did a great job holding above 39.22. Never really got down to test it during the cash session. And we just fought up to this trend line that's been holding us down in this sell-off. We consolidated in between that 39.22 big key level and that trend line yesterday, but it did provide, some longs, some shorts back down, longs back up, shorts back down, and then it just kind of settled around VWAP. Overnight, we held that 39.22 again, and we set a higher low from yesterday's pre-market low. And we've started to push through that trend line, arriving back near yesterday's highs. So we basically got a range from this 39.61, yesterday's highs, key level. We have the daily 21 just above that. And to the downside, we have that 39.22. We'll have to see today, are they going to keep it in this range, playing off of these key levels? Or are they going to let it get above the daily 21 and start to push back up to 4,000, where the daily 15 sits, and that daily 8 at 39.84-ish. Right now, for me, kind of staying above 39.41 is key. If we look over at our chart with our 45 EMAs from different time frames, yesterday, that 15 and 30 minute were kind of the resistance. We only got through a little bit in the morning drive. After the afternoon little drive up, ran right into that 30 minute and that trend line and fell through. Now we are above the 15 minute and the 30 minute, and we're starting to push through the 1 hour and above. So on any dips, I want to definitely see us hold that 39.41 and hold those MAs. They were resistance, now we are above. They need to be support to push us higher. If we start to lose that 39.41, it's going to be a big key sign that we're going to revisit this 39.30, 39.22. These two overnight pre-market lows, all on the table if we start to lose that 39.41. Basically in this range, that's kind of the center. Our MAs have caught up to it. Now that we are above those MAs, everything needs to be support to keep pushing us higher. Otherwise, this is just a fake kind of push, a look back up to the highs from yesterday to fail back down. So let's see if we can hold that 39.41, start to push through the daily 21, start to push out of these squeezes to the upside to get back to 4,000. Or if we're going to reject the 21, fall back into this range. And if we lose that 39.41, it could accelerate to the downside. Yeah, pretty simple premise today. Looks like we're pushing a little higher on that job, jobs data, jobless data. Let me pull up our economic calendar just for a quick review. Basically just have initial jobless and continuing jobless claims that came out at 8:30. And then we're clear for the rest of the day. Tomorrow we have some PPI, Producer Price Index, and University of Michigan data coming out at 10 a.m. So a little before the bell, a little after the bell, a little housing data at noon. Next week, the big one is CPI on Tuesday. And I don't know why it's not showing FOMC, but it is next week. So something to keep an eye on there as well. We've got two big key data points coming on Tuesday. Let's see if they're going to let us rally today and tomorrow, heading into next week with those two big economic events, Tuesday and Wednesday. Maybe they need to take it higher before we head lower. Or maybe we get some good results on CPI. We get maybe a reduction in the rate increases back to that 50 base point at FOMC next week. We'll have to see what we get and what the reaction is. But playing the current price action from this downtrend, we're starting to break back up. We need to hold our trend lines. We need to hold our MAs that we're starting to get through. If we can, just looking at the MAs, clear 39.74. We can fight up to that 39.90-ish. So 39.90, 39.86. I'll just call it 39.85. We've got that daily 8, 39.85. We've got that 4-hour 45 at 39.90. So a couple of little zone there, with the goal of getting up to the next zone, 39.96, 4,000, where that daily 15 sits, and if we can clear that, back to 40.20. Just giving some upside targets if we can actually get going, if we rally for the next, or for today, maybe even into tomorrow, to try to recover a little bit of this drop. And yeah, now those levels actually lining up well with lows. That 39.85 I talked about right near Monday's low. We do still have these squeezes in place. Which could provide some resistance where we push into them, we fall back and hold something key, we push into them, fall back and set some higher lows and just keep pushing against them to fire to the upside. Just saying, when we have large stack squeezes like this, it can be tough to just take off. We'll start to push, pull back, push a little higher, pull back, set in a higher low, grind into these clouds to get them to open up to the upside. You know, sometimes we can have a news event that sends us right through them. But for the most part, for them to fire, we'll push against them, they'll start to open up. Like here, we pushed up into these clouds, we fell back. We push up higher into the clouds and hold, and then they open overnight. Just to give you guys an example. So like in the upside today, want to see us hold that 39.41, 39.53 on pullbacks. Those are key levels of support. And from our trend line overnight, giving out that 39.41 could spell a harder drop. We'd also be falling out of our MA support. Okay, I think I've labored that point enough. We can go on to the next name. NQ. NQ also arriving near yesterday's highs, pre-market here. Overall in NQ, want to see it hold above this 11,491 and 11,500. That's kind of the zone of support, which is a little bit below our trend line from overnight. But that's kind of the ultimate line in the sand for NQ. If we start to lose that, we'll probably take a drop to this daily 50, which we have not quite got to tap in our overnight pre-market lows. So let's see if we have a dip, want to see that 500 hold, push back up, get through the highs from yesterday's pre-market and cash session at around that 11,600 to push back up to this daily 21, daily 8, which now flank our key level at 677, and try to push further to that daily 15 at 750, and ultimately back to that 12,000 and 12,100, but not saying we get there today, obviously. Since it took a couple of days to get down here, going to take a couple of days to get back, likely. So let's see if we can continue this pump. We're revisiting yesterday's highs. Let's see if we can push a little higher back to these moving averages. We do have our stack squeezes. If we start to give out that 500, if we come back for a test and lose it, going to test yesterday's lows, this daily 50. And should that give out, 11,200 is where the daily squeeze bottom now sits. Ready. So let's see, Ruddy did a great job holding above 1800. The last 2 days on the cash session, overnight it did slip a little bit below just to tag that daily 50. And just like everything else, now up near yesterday's highs. Keep an eye on Ruddy. It could start to make the move first to get through yesterday's highs and make the journey up to this daily 8, daily 21. And we have our daily 15 and daily 200 up above as well. So those are your key targets on the Ruddy. If we can push through yesterday's high and turn it into support around that 1830, 1828. I want to see us get through that, turn it into support on any pullbacks to push higher to these moving averages and try to recapture Tuesday and some of Monday. We are near the bottom of this daily squeeze. Yep. So if we do reject those highs at 1830, start to come back down, at this point, I want to see us hold 1810 on pullbacks. Even that pre-market low at 1808. If that starts to give out, going to test 1800 and that daily 50. Should that give out, likely going to slip down to the 1780 at the bottom of this daily squeeze. But we've come from the top of a daily squeeze down near the bottom. Let's see if buyers start to step in, get us back over 1830, back over the mean to start heading up. YM. Kind of the strongest, been trying to live above its daily 21 on this pullback. Slip below it a little bit on Tuesday. Yesterday it was just chopping around the daily 21. This morning trying to push off from it, and yep, just like everything else, tapped yesterday's highs. So on pullbacks, would love us to just hold the 21 and buyers be stepping in there. It would prove very bullish and give us some momentum to get through these squeeze clouds. Goal of getting back to 33,900 where that daily 8 sits, 34,000 where that daily 15 sits. So that's your target zone above to recover Tuesday's drop. If we start to lose that daily 21, coming back to test this 33,500, where we've held 3 times on the test. Obviously, we slipped a little bit below, right? 452, the lowest. So a nice 50-point zone of support that we are trying to hold. Let's see if we can scoop back up off of it kind of creating a W. But we have to take out that midpoint of the W, yesterday's high, to try to recapture Tuesday. And if we start to break it down and lose this little 50-point zone of support, and the market heads back down to tests like CPI gap levels, the target down below would be that 33,000 down at the bottom of the daily squeeze. Next key level near that 32,900. So a little 100-point zone below as the target if we give out this support that we're trying to hold and push up off of. Apple. I'm kind of drifting between. Excuse me, drifting between my key zones. Didn't make it down to this 138, 138.8. Did a great job of holding 140 to the cent. Now we're pushing back up near yesterday's highs. Overall, I want to see us stay above 141 on Apple today. You can see that the evening prints gapped through 141, gave it a tap, and now we're pushing higher. So ultimately want to hold 141 if we do have any pullbacks. Need to get through 143, where we topped out yesterday, to get back to our zone above at 144.5, 145. Daily 8, daily 50 sitting right there at the top of that zone. Daily 21 just a hair past it. So we need to recapture this zone, turn it into support to push back to these levels that we rejected. We start to lose that 141, coming back to test yesterday's low at 140. Should that give out, then we will make it to our zone below at 138. And we do have a daily squeeze starting to come in at that zone. So let's see if this was low enough to take it near that first Keltner. And if we're going to scoot back up to those moving averages, or if they're going to take her back down and complete the journey to this zone in the bottom of that daily squeeze. AMD. Did a pretty decent job of holding above 70 yesterday. So basically 69.5, 70, your zone of support on AMD, as long as we can hold above that today. Looking forward to get up through yesterday's high and this daily 21 to get back to this 72, 72.3. And keep pushing up to that daily 8 at about 73, daily 15 at 74. If we start to lose that 69.5, 70 zone, then we're likely coming down to test 69, 68.5. That daily 50. So like if the market starts rolling over and we're going to go test CPI gaps and whatnot, AMD might give out that 69 and head down to the 66, 65.5, where that daily 50 now sits. Amazon, definitely one of the weaker names. Definitely a big part of the drop. Let's see, overall today, if it can hold 88, 88.5, that's kind of your zone of support. With the goal of trying to get back through 90, back to 91, and this daily 8. If we start to give out that 88, 88.5, coming back to retest the lows, 87.5, 87. We do have the bottom of a squeeze there at 80, daily squeeze at 86.5. BA made it back to the daily 15, daily 8, and chopped around there. Now trying to open at that daily 8. Let's see if it can get above or stay above this daily 8 at about 178. Start to hold it and push through 180 with the goal of trying to get back to, the 184 at the top of this daily squeeze where we were. If we start to lose 178, coming back to 176 where that daily 15 sits, should we start to give that out? This pre-market low of 174 is interesting, and then the daily 21 at about 172.5. Also kind of where we last held on a sell-off before heading higher. And let's move on. Cat. Cat made it down to this 226 at the bottom of this daily squeeze. Great spot to go long. And, even though the market was just wedging yesterday and slightly downtrending, Cat was slightly uptrending. And got back over this 228. Looking for that 228 to hold on any pullbacks. We're coming off the bottom of a daily squeeze and looking like we could very easily get back to this daily 8, daily 15, around this 233, with the ultimate goal of trying to get back to 240 at the top of this daily squeeze. If we start to lose that 228, coming back to retest 226 and these lows, and that 225 in the bottom of this daily squeeze. Google. Google. A little weaker yesterday, slipped down into this zone, could not hold the top like it was trying to pre-market. But we have pulled right back where we based before that run up on Powell. So let's see if we can continue to hold that base at about 94.5, which we didn't quite get down to that. 95, basically want to see that 50-cent range hold on any pullbacks, and for us to push back up through 96 with the goal of getting back to this daily 50, daily 21 around 97. And then pushing back to this 98.78, 100, 101. POC sits up at 101. So even though we fell down, it is a new month. So POC is trying to establish itself. We've fallen on maybe a little less volume, and a lot of the volume that was exchanged on Google was back at 101. Basically, no, Wednesday was part of last month. So yeah, it was all this volume. Either way, we've got our targets to the upside, targets to the downside if we start to give out that 94.5. Next stop, this 93.5, and then my zone below here at 91.37 up to 92.23. GS. And yeah, Johnny, I'm seeing your message in the YouTube chat. We'll get to Netflix. It's definitely coming up. GS made it back to this 360 and 358. So basically looking for 360 to hold on any pullbacks. That starts to give out. We're going to retest lows around 358. But I've been talking about this one for a while, that it was up near third Keltner, been pushing for weeks. I think since earnings. Banks have been on a nice push up, and I've said how those leaders might need to take a little break, come back, revert to the mean, and we needed to see some other names that have been laggards start stepping up. They haven't been doing the best job of stepping up, some of those names, but overall we've got our downtrend. We are coming to the point where we could be going sideways out of it. We've gotten back to a big key psych level, this 360, and we've held. Let's see if they want to push off of this 360. Need to get through yesterday's highs around 365 to keep trucking back to 370 and the daily mean. And, if we start to give out that 360, 358, coming down to 355, 350, which is down near third Keltner. We've got a little resistance there. Yeah, I got a little resistance to get through. But I am going to make a little alert just to let me know, in case I'm not keeping an eye on GS, if banks are starting to take off to the upside and break out of their squeeze tops would definitely help the market. Moving on. Meta. Hey, key levels. Made it back to this 113.5. Chopping around there. Right, like I've only got a couple of key levels on my meta chart. We got through that 113.5 up to this 123. And if you did nothing else but just look at the key levels that I try to share with you guys every day, it would have been a long up to this one, a short back, and now we're settling. Having a decent little gap up near yesterday's highs. Overall, let's see if that daily 21, daily 15, right at about 114 can hold us up. Basically 113.5, 114, your zone of support on any dips. Want to see that hold. And if we can start to get through 116 in that daily 8, looking to get back up to that daily 50 at 118.5, and start the journey back up to this 123. If we roll over and start to give out that 113.5 and yesterday's lows, likely coming back to 110 and 108. Recent lows. Microsoft. Hasn't even gotten down to that 241, 240 zone where we took off from PAL. Basically has made it back to right where we were for that PAL speech and holding up. Today, I want to see it stay above 143.5. I'm sorry, 243.5, 244 on Microsoft. That's your zone of support for today. Looking to get through 246, kind of yesterday's highs where that daily 15 sits, up to 247.5 where that daily 8 sits, with the goal of trying to get back to 250 and engulf Tuesday's drop. If we start to give out that 244, 243.5, likely coming back to retest some of these lows near 242. And should that give out, then we're coming to that 241, 240, and then the daily 50, which is now caught up to this recent low near 238.5, we'll call it, with that recent low being 238.21. Netflix. Oh man, we've been talking about Netflix for the past couple of days. Those 325 calls, I believe it was, arrived at Beast on Tuesday and held. Yesterday they just sat in Beast, still holding. Now starting to gap up over yesterday's high. Let's see if it takes a quick dip to yesterday's highs around the 310 and can hold and keep pressing back up to 320, 325. With the ultimate goal of getting back to 333, that will completely fill the gap from a couple of earnings ago. And, I've been talking about this for a couple of days, that if it can continue to hold up around 305 to 307, it's a great spot to go long to try and finish filling that gap. We did slip a little lower than 305 yesterday, but ultimately we didn't really even give out that pre-market low. Every day I'm going to point out your pre-market lows and highs. They're very important, right? We never got down to test pre-market low, so you should be thinking long, long, long. And today we have a gap up. Not surprising after everything we've talked about with Netflix the last few days. So yeah, definitely going to be keeping an eye on those 320s, 325s with the goal of getting back here. Really, Netflix can make this push no problem, even if market is, struggling. Netflix plenty of times can just do its own thing. Can make its own moves very quickly while market is just kind of messing around. And then, it'll catch up to market if the market is slipping. But overall, if we can see some good upside on the market today and on Netflix, looking forward to get back to that 320, 325. Is going to be watching those calls since they were arriving at beast the last 2 days and holding. Like I try to teach every day in the room, that beast zone is also kind of a sentiment gauge. Do they intend to try to take it back to 320, 325 before the expiration of those options? If the answer is yes, they're going to try to hold it up at beast, and they're going to try to defend that beast zone to head higher. If we start to give out that 310, coming back to test this 307, and 305 where that daily 8 sits, if that starts to give out, coming to retest 300. NVIDIA. Made it down to the daily 21. Did a good job holding it yesterday during the cash session, and now we're about to open near the daily 8. Talked about that yesterday. Overall, wanted to see it hold the 21, make its way up to the 15. You can see it did a great job of grinding up the second half of the day and closing near the highs. Let's see if we can keep going to the upside today. If we can get through that daily 8 near 163-ish. Looking to push up to this Keltner around 165-ish, which was the lows before we started to give out. And if we can reclaim 165 and turn it into support, looking to get up to 170. But if we pull back and start to give out 160 today on the video, likely coming back to this daily 21 for another test around that 158. But NVIDIA holding up well. I mean, obviously we did make it back to engulf this Powell pop, but we got nowhere near those lows that we set right before Powell. So overall, a little bit of relative strength in NVIDIA and in chips. And still trying to push new pre-market highs. QQQ. Slipped 280 a little bit yesterday, but overall just chopped and held. Now we're opening around, or set to open around that 282. On any dips, want to see 281 try to hold up. And to the upside, trying to get back to about 284, where that daily 21 sits. 285, where that daily 8 is likely going to be stepping down to today. daily 8, daily 15, probably stepping down near that 285 today. So that's kind of your upside target. And if we can keep pushing up to this 288, where we kind of consolidated after Monday's drop. Ultimate goal trying to get back to 290 and maybe even recent highs. Not saying that that happens necessarily today, just upside targets if we are going to hold and start to break out back to the upside. If we start to lose that 281, coming to test 280, and if that starts to give out, then we're going to trickle down and test these lows, 278, and the daily 50 at 277. SPX. Gonna be having a little gap up about 21 points, which puts us near yesterday's highs, above that 39.50. Let's see if on any pullbacks we can hold above 39.45. Would like to see 39.45 hold us up. 39.50. Continue to push us through yesterday's highs in this daily 21 around 39.60. And if we can reclaim that daily 21 and use it as support, the goal is to push up to the next moving averages, which sit flanking 39.90. But if we start to give out that 39.50, 39.45, then we'll probably come back to test this 39.30, 39.22. Should these start to give out 3900? SPY. Let's wrap this up. SPY did a great job holding 392. That's where the daily 100 sits. Yeah, there it is. Yesterday we held that daily 100 repeatedly. Set to open above 395. Let's see if we can hold there. At the worst, I'd let it dip to near zone of support is 393.5, 394. I'd let it dip there for some bounces and still be playing long. If it starts to break under that, then we are likely coming back to test this 392.66. And there we go. And 392, and should that start to give out, then we are coming to test that 390, which is a big key level. But we got close enough, holding that 392, 391 on the pre-markets. There we go. And if we can get going to the upside, looking to take out 396, 396 and a half, and then start that journey up to 398 and a half, 399, where the daily 8, daily 15 sit. Got a couple of levels to take out on the way to try to get back to that 400. And, if we start to give out that 395, then we can likely be coming back to that 393 and a half, 394 zone of support. Keep an eye on your squeezes, because we could reject, come back to support, push back up, come back to set higher lows, push back up. Or we could reject, come down to test our support, give out support, and go back to the bottom of the range, right? We've got a balance range here. Testing the top and pulling back. Let's see if we can hold around the middle, or if we're going to go test the bottom again. Tesla. So a number of things gapping up. Tesla gapping down, so still relative weakness here. Basically that pre-market low of 170 needs to hold. If that gives out, then we're coming to my zone below. 166, 167 and a half at the bottom of this daily squeeze. But if we can hold 170 We need to break through this downtrend. Here's kind of the smaller, tighter downtrend we've got to get through. And we got to get through the next downtrend. Yeah. So, Tesla, relative weakness, got a lot of resistance to get through. So if market, let's say, makes a good push today, we want to be looking at names that are relatively strong, like chips. What was another one? Microsoft wasn't too bad. We want to play those names that they have been rotating into on the upsides. Every time the market catches a bounce, those are the names that they've been rotating into. Tesla, can it play catch up with the market? Yes, but usually those catch up trades aren't the best. It's going to be riddled with chop and little pops and whatnot. So let's see if Tesla can start to push through 172, get back to 175 on the goal of getting to 180, but not looking the best. Relative weakness, and if it keeps slipping, we've got our zone below. This is where we bounced previously. I'd have to go further back in time, but this is the last zone that we bounced at on Tesla. UVXY. And then VIX, and we'll wrap this up. So UVXY got above the daily 8, near the daily 15, kind of just chopping around. And between those, hasn't quite made it to test the daily 15, which sits up at 795. So for downside today, and going back to fill the gap, we'll likely see UVXY head up to test the 7.9, 7.95, and 8. But if we can continue to the upside on the market today, looking for UVXY to stay below, we'll call it 7.8. Would like to see it stay below 7.8 and start to make the journey back to this daily 8 at 767 and continue down to about 750 at least, these recent highs, for upside of the market on VIX. Got up above 22.5, and yesterday it tried, that was kind of the lows, right? We slipped 22.5 just a little, but that's kind of the support, right? So for upside in the market today, I want to see VIX get back below 22.5, back below its daily 21, and make the journey down to this daily 8 and 15. Just like if we are going to see the market move up to its daily 8 and 15, which sit above VIX, which is, kind of the opposite, we want to see it get back below its 21 and head back to these moving averages around 21.5. Got that 22 level in between on the way, right? But if we're going to roll over, go back to fill the gap, and head back down, we'll likely see VIX get back up near yesterday's high. Well, not yesterday. Yeah, yesterday's pre-market highs, around 23, and push through 23 to 23.33. Our 200 MA and 50 MA are way up at 26. So, are we going to hold above 22.5, get through 23, and start making that journey up to 25, 26? Or are we going to stay below 23, get back below 22.5, back below that daily 21, and start to roll back over? So, that's it for today. It is Thursday, where you can come test out our tools in our server for free. And we'll be on the voice chat all day, where you can listen into our call-outs, where we're trying to call where the market's going, where it's pivoting from, where it could be going to, and trying to help with trades. So thanks for tuning in. Good luck today, everybody, and definitely come join our server and listen into our chat today for a free Thursday where you can test out our tools. Good luck, and we'll see you in the chat.